And well, talking about research, we have today, uh, let me try to pronounce it properly, but Günther Schramm. Uh, he was a fellow at the Kleros Fellowship. He did his research about the use of Kleros in real estate transactions. Hey, Günther,
Hi,
how are
Jan.
you doing?
Very good. And you? Thank you very much for the introduction and for your time for this video call.
Great to have you here. We started to do some interviews with previous Kleros fellows. It's last week we had Alessia that did her PhD about Kleros, and well, first let us know a little bit about you. So we were discussing before you are from Argentina, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I also formed the batch with Alesia, so I also read
Okay.
her job investigation, which it was very interesting. I'm also very thankful for Kleros for the opportunity for the fellowship. It was really interesting, all the co-working, how we discussed also in the video meetings that we had. It was during 2024 and beginning of 2025, if I don't remember wrong. And it was a really interesting experience and very helpful. As you will point it out, I was born in Argentina. That's why I'm drinking mate. But
Nice.
I have been living in multiple countries. I was raised in Spain. I'm half German, so I have lived also and worked in Germany. So as you, Jan, also I have like a very international family and very international work. But now I'm based in Malaga, in south of Spain, and I'm a lawyer here, registered in the Bar Association from Malaga.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, can you tell a little bit of how did you get into this research? Are you related to the real estate industry, or was that like a part
Yeah.
of your studies? Or
Well, my journey with blockchain technology and with Kleros started back in 2018. I will say when I was nearly finalizing my studies in law in Argentina back then in the Catholic University from Cordoba, and when I had only one or two exams left. I got into a blog from Federico Ast where it said that how will be the lawyers from the future will be, are there like any lawyers going to be involved in the future? And I was like shocked. I was like, I'm nearly finishing a study career from 6 years, and now you're telling me that the lawyers we are not going to be useful. I was shocked. So I did his course in Coursera about the future of law and lawyers, which it was shocking because since then I have been trying to. I don't consider myself as an expert in blockchain. It's more like a hobby that I have. I like to do research. So as soon as I saw the program from the Kleros Fellowship, I was like, okay, I need to see how can I relate my work experience and expertise with this technology, and that's what it was the goal that I did this research. For the last 5 years, I have been previously I worked in Germany, but for the last 5 years I have been working as a lawyer here in Malaga, and because of the Costa del Sol, it's a booming. The construction industry is booming. It's very important here, the real estate industry. So as I speak also English and German and Spanish, and I'm registered here as a lawyer, a lot of clients for myself, they are foreigners, they are internationals, and that's why I'm really into real estate procedures. So that's why when I saw this fellowship program, I spoke with Federico and with Facundo Trust also, and they explained me about the Kleros Escrow product. So that's why
Mhm.
in my investigation I related like with two models, which should be like the best case scenario to introduce Kleros and the blockchain technology nowadays in the real estate transactions in Spain, which I believe it's really needed because I'm going to give an example, a practice example that it happened to me last month.
Yes, tell us about it. I know that, for example, in Argentina, this is also a very complex topic. There are lots of different, let's say, things that are not people doing things that are maybe not as official as it should be. and lots of difficulties with currency controls and all of that, right? So I suppose that Malaga also has a lot of capital from outside the country, right?
Yes, absolutely. I will say that maybe 90% of my clients, they are international, they are foreigners. So this means that, as you will mention, a lot of currencies are involved, a lot of international payments are involved. We are talking about big amounts because when buying a property, the amounts are not going to be minimum. So that's why we need to introduce to these procedures more efficient, more transparent, more honest procedure, which I will explain. If you agree, I can shortly explain how the
Yeah,
process is here to
definitely.
buy a property in Spain, because I want just to mention, like, even if in the practice we know each other a lot, like all the agencies, the other lawyers, it's Malaga is not that big yet. It's growing and it's going to be a huge city as it's already Barcelona, Valencia, or Madrid. But nowadays we still know each other a lot. But still, it's mandatory that if we need to prepare to the future, maybe it's not going to be something that the technology just changes now instantly. So that's also something that we spoke with Federico and with Robert Dean. But in the near future and in the mid future, this technology is going to be more involved. As for example, now the EA is already changing our lives. So basically, in when you are buying a property in Spain, there are three steps. The first steps are the reservation contract, the private purchase contract, and the public title deed. The first three steps we are talking about, which is a really private involvement between the two parties. This means that usually there are no lawyers involved, no notaries involved, and it's just between usually the agency and the buyer, or the agency and the seller. So this means that in most of the cases, if there is no lawyer involved, the contracts are really done only by the agencies, which I don't have anything against agencies, but they don't have like the legal acknowledgement that is necessary for these kind of transactions. They have a lot of expertise about how to deal with the real estate transaction, of course. But when I always say, like, when buying a property, everyone is friend of each other, and everything is smiles and happiness until the money is involved and there is a problem. When there is a
Yeah.
problem, and everyone goes crazy, and we are all enemies, and we just go all to the contracts. Okay, what was the contract was saying? And most of the times, the contracts, unfortunately, they are not very well written, especially nowadays that the clients, they are using a lot of AI. For example, I have
Mhm.
Dane in our law firm. They come, the client, and they go like, "Yeah, this is the contract." And when I read the contract, I'm going like, "This is a mess. Like, I don't know how to defend this in the court." So,
Okay.
same bit. After saying this, that's why it's so important that we really need to introduce a technology that can bring transparency and trustful system for both parties when there is like the private parties involved. When there is, for the third step, the notary involved, the public title deed, the due diligence has already been carried out, even by the
Mhm.
lawyer if there's a lawyer, or by the parties, or by even the notary. Otherwise, the land registry will reject the title deed. So, my proposal with this research was to include two models. The first one is a P2P model, which it will be directly between the parties, the buyer and the seller. If they have like the technology acknowledgement about blockchain, for example, about Kleros Escrow, if they're familiar with dealing with cryptocurrencies, smart contracts, they will know each other what we are talking about. So why
Mhm.
is this model important? I will clarify it now in a few moments. And the second model is when there is a law firm involved, that the law firm makes a written agreement besides the smart contract. So both contracts, the smart one and the written contract, are going to be deposited in the Kleros Escrow platform. And in the case that everything goes smooth, the funds are going to be released as soon as the both parties agree. If there is any controversial or any dispute, the jurors for the Kleros platform, they're going to be acting, and then the funds are going to be released to the party that has the right. It's going to be more clear for now if I explain. For example, I had a
Mhm.
client last month that he was buying a property of 305,000 euros. As mentioned, in the reservation contract, usually 6,000 euros are paid or to the agency or to the seller or to the lawyer, to the law firm. If in the most of the cases, this amount is paid to the law firm or to the agency, usually there is no problem because as we work daily with these cases, we know that if we don't give that money back, we are in trouble and our jobs, our companies are in trouble. But what happens, for example, when the amount goes to the seller, which is a private person, and it's especially an old person that is not used for these cases, and they say like, oh no, I just want to withhold this amount because the property was off the market 1 month, and now I want to claim damages to the buying party because they are not buying me the property. Okay, we need to see what the contract says. In this case, for example, my client, he made the deposit to the agency. So in theory, everything was correct. What happened here? He hired me after signing the reservation contract. So that was a contract that it wasn't supervised by myself. So when I saw the contract, I was like, okay, the contract is not really clear, but there is a small phrase that says, if the mortgage is not granted, this deposit of 6,000 euros must be returned to the buyer. And I was like, calm. I told to the client, okay, with this phrase, you are protected. What happened afterwards? Banks are really slowly. The mortgage procedure we started, we had a 1 month period for this mortgage. And before signing the private purchase contract, the second step, the mortgage was not coming through. So I explained this to the client and to the representative agency of the sellers. Like, look, I will need more time because I'm still doing the due diligence and because the mortgage bank is not granting the mortgage yet. And they were like, okay, no problem. What was the problem here? That the funds, the 6,000 euros, it was in the power of the second agency involved, which it's funny to say, but it was the agency of the buyer. So in theory, they have to protect the buyer's interest. When I asked them the money, they were like, okay, no problem. We are going to give the money back. 1 week gone by, the money wasn't released. 2 weeks gone by, the money was still not released. And my client, he trusts me and he was like calm because he said like, okay, my lawyer is in charge. But at one point I was like a little bit nervous because the agency telling me like, yeah, we're going to release the funds. But at the same time, I was thinking, okay, 2 weeks has gone by. You haven't released the funds. I'm going to start a legal claim in the court against you because I a burofax and a letter like, look, if you don't release the funds immediately, because we need to make the payment to the other agency, we will need to start the legal procedure. So going back to my investigation, if the funds, for example, they will be deposited in the Kleros Escrow product, it will be instantly refunded to my client. And we didn't need to wait for the agency to release the fund. So this is like a practical example of how this investigation and the Kleros product can help us in the daily practice of the real estate transactions.
That's great. Thanks for the example. And let's say if you had to enter like a legal claim with the agency, do you think like what would be the costs for that, or what would be the timeline for that? Because I think this is one of the another points, right, for using the escrow.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question, John, because nowadays I also explain it in my investigation. Since last year, it's mandatory in Spain that there is a legal procedure called MASC, which is like a mediation or arbitration process. This means the courts in Spain, they are so collapsed that before filling in a lawsuit in the court, you must demonstrate to the Spanish courts that you tried the off-court settlement. How do you demonstrate this? With burofax, certified letters, emails, meetings online or in presence in the law firm or in the office. So this means like, even imagine that the agency in this example, they wouldn't release the funds. And I was like telling my client, okay, we need to start the legal claim because they're not giving the money back. We will need to at least wait 1 month period for the mediation process. In this mediation process, legal fees are involved of the lawyers, of course. We are talking about maybe here in Spain, usually the cost of this mediation process nowadays are between 500 euros and 1,000 euros approx. The cost of the burofax, which we are talking about between 10 euros and 50 euros, depending on the type of letter, and the time schedule. Then, if in the mediation the other party still didn't release the funds, we need to go to the court, prepare the lawsuit, fill it in, and depending in the amount of the value of the claim, if it's above 2,000 euros nowadays, we need a lawyer and a prosecutor. In Spain, it's mandatory the figure of the prosecutor, which it means it's the person who's going to represent the client. We, the lawyers, we prepare the paperwork and we do the lawsuit, and the prosecutor represents the client in the court and submits all the paperwork. So we are talking about at least another 1,000 euros for the lawyer and maybe another 500, 700 euros for the prosecutor. Once the legal claim is submitted in the court, it can happen that the courts are so collapsed that 2 or 3 months go by and we still do not know if the claim is accepted or not accepted by the court. Once it's accepted, then it can be between 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, we never know. So imagine... Yeah, exactly. Imagine in this case of my client that there were 6,000 euros involved, which, okay, you can say it's not a huge amount, but imagine if it was in the private purchase contract. In the private purchase contract, the amount is 10% of the price. We are talking about already 30,000 euros. If we are talking about 30,000 euros, all the legal fees are going to be increased also. And the time of the legal procedure, it will also take longer. So at the same point, it's like, okay, here it was really clear that the agency must give the money back to the client. But even if we go to the court and the court says, yes, you have to give the money back and the agency is going to pay all the legal fees involved. Still, my client, for example, he must have been waiting for 1 year, 1 year and a half for all this process, and maybe he lost the property.
Yeah, that's, I think, will be the biggest loss. Also for the seller is also, if the seller really wants to commit, he's also losing this value, getting stuck in this transaction, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In this case, the selling party, they were like really friendly and really understanding the situation, and they were waiting for us because I told them like, look, I'm waiting for the release of the 6,000 euros to make you the new pavement with a new reservation contract because we want to buy the property. But until the other party doesn't give me the money back, my client cannot pay another 6,000 euros. And the selling party completely understand the situation and they wait for us. But what happens if the other party does not wait for us? We lose the property.
Yeah, and maybe the next one will be more expensive or less desirable, and
Exactly.
maybe might be a couple of months without finding like a similar one. So yeah, it's crazy. So it's always it's worth trying to avoid getting to that point, right? Everything that can avoid that will be better. What do you think? I think probably most of the times people realize that after they are starting to have an issue or they like feel that they are about to have an issue, right? Do you think like once these types of solutions get more popular, do you think people will start to adopt, or what do you think should change for this to become more viable? And maybe do you think there are some laws that need to be changed, or where are the blockers now?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, very interesting question. And unfortunately, I do not have the answer for that question. But what I have been also like, again, I mentioned before, when we had a meeting with Federico and with Robert Dean, we spoke like in the near future, it's difficult that this changes because the Spanish law says that it's mandatory the figure of a notary and the public title deed to confirm the transaction of the selling of the property. But what happens if in the future, for example, we change that public deed into a small contract and the small contract goes instantly to the land registry and in seconds, everything is registered? That will make everything smooth and more transparent and more speed, of course. I truly believe that this is something that is going to come in the near future. I don't know when. The laws of Spain must change. What they don't need to change, for example, in Spain, the contracts, if the contract has an object, a cost, and a price, and there is a mutual agreement, every contract is valid. So this means that the Spanish law nowadays accept the smart contracts. The thing is
Oh, that's
that,
great to know.
yeah, the thing is, for example, to register this transaction, the land registry still will ask for all the procedure with the notary. This procedure with the notary nowadays is like fast because it's much faster than the court. But still, for example, I sent a title deed that we signed in April. I sent it mid-May to the land registry of Ronda in Malaga. 2 weeks has gone by and I'm still waiting for the invoice of the land registry and for the registration of the land registry. I'm not saying that it's a slow system. It's a very fast system actually. But with this technology, we can make it more faster and more transparent, of course.
Yeah, I think one of the things we usually talk about, Federico usually mentions, is that uh, probably there are some things that will change when the new generations start to make these transactions. And since you are maybe a digital native, you expect the systems to work a lot faster than before and start not to accept the way that some of other systems work.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a matter of time also for these times to improve, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why in my investigation I was like more thinking about the early stages of the buying process, which is the thing between the two parties, because that's like I believe in the practice is more doable for the near future. Again, like I say in the investigation, a lot of AML procedures must be checked and controlled. Nowadays in Spain, you can buy a property with the cryptocurrencies, but you need to comply with all the AML procedures and you must clarify the origin of those cryptocurrencies. So, especially with this new MASC procedure, the Kleros Escrow product, it can help us more in a way, not only because we are using cryptocurrencies instead of, for example, fiat money, but if anything goes wrong in the early stages of the procedure, the mediation process is going to be more transparent and more efficient than if we, as lawyers, we need to send a burofax. Because if we have here jurors that are impersonally outside the operation and they're giving their decision in a couple of days, everything will go smooth. The registration of the decision in the smart contract is going to be registered, and the court can have like more security that okay, Bob has more right than Alice, for example.
Well, that's great to know. I don't know if you have been following Kleros lately, but we have like a couple of new developments around like adoption like on the legal side of things and also on government entities. So there was a law, actually not a law, like a regulation in Argentina that
For the
recreated the figure
consumer
of the
law,
legal defender, uh,
okay.
the defensor del cliente. So,
Yeah, yeah, I'm actually in that court. Actually, I'm a
are
juror.
you already in the court? Oh, okay. So yeah, I don't need to explain
Yeah,
to you.
yeah. Thank you.
But yeah.
I have been in 10 cases already involved.
Oh, so you're one of
Yeah.
the top jurors. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Well,
it's,
I wouldn't say top jurors, but yeah, it's something that I'm really looking forward to work with Kleros, and I'm also happy to be in that court because it's something that I worked in the consumer government from Cordoba in Argentina when I was a student,
oh, nice.
so I'm very familiar with consumer law, and even if we are talking about off court settlements for that. Um, the procedure in the authorities in Argentina and also in Spain is the same. They are going to be at least 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, up to 6 months. And in the court, we are always five jurors, and we give the decision in a 2 or 3 days period. after checking all the revenues and also that. So I also believe that this is the near future for the legal system, like anonymous jurors that are going to submit their opinion based in an autonomous and impartial way after checking all the proofs. That's the way it's going to be in the near future. So yeah, I'm really happy working. It's still really difficult for me because besides the job that I have in my law firm, usually when I come back at night at 12 or 1 a.m., I get connected and I try to answer the cases. But it's like more like I trust in the technology, and that's why it's like I'm really motivated to be in that court.
It's the great to have like a juror in being interviewed like that. So well, great to have you. I hope that we can continue talking. I wish that maybe on a couple of months or next year we can have some more updates to share with you and you with us. And of course, whenever you need something, we are open. So thanks a lot.
Perfect.
See you.